Okay, it is 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. If you'll please stand, do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have to adopt the
Okay.
Fred?
Yes.
On this, we'll adopt the adoption of the agenda.
First.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we need to adopt the agenda for this evening, which includes the old business, the new business, and everything else that's on the agenda. So is there any additions that we're aware of?
Nope.
No additions? Okay. So I'd entertain a motion then that we adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
First of all is old business. There are some appointments. The Planning Commission has three terms that have expired. And it would be my pleasure then to make a motion that we reappoint Barbara Emmert and John Koshin as inside city appointments to the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'd also make a motion that reappoint Andy McLennan as an outside city appointment to the Planning Commission. And then there's three terms, and can we do that all in one motion? Or should we do it separately? Making
Could,
But,
better
yeah.
separate.
okay. So those are the appointments then I'd like to make for the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals. Would there be a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'd also like to thank, is Brent Littleton here by any chance? I'd also like to thank Brent for his term of service on the Board of Zoning Appeals. He is actually moved outside the city limits. Therefore, he said he would like to continue to serve. And so the next time there's an outside the city limits board position open, I'm sure he'll apply for it. He has served honorably and done a nice job on the Board of Zoning and Appeals. Then for the Historic Preservation Commission, I would like to reappoint Tim Emmert, Sean Clapp, and Ken Brown to this board. Would there be a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All those, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item B then is to consider minutes of the December 5th, December 14th, and December 28th, 2017 commission meetings. Questions or comments? Okay. Would there be a motion then to approve the minutes of those three meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then item C. I don't know what to do about that one.
Can we go before the public, the table? Last 4 years and 8 months have been really interesting for the commission. I don't know. I remember the evening we got sworn in, Fred, and had no idea that we'd be facing some of the decisions that we had to confront as new commissioners. And through the 4 years, it's been good. I think the city has benefited from your service. I know I appreciate your input and your concern for the city. That utmost in every decision, I know you were looking at what was best for the city and trying to look to not only for right now, but looking down the road, the strategic plan. It seemed like if anything kept coming back in our discussions, you would refer back to the strategic plan and developing a master plan. And I think that's what we're facing just the start of seeing that come to pass, looking far enough into the future that we won't be jumping, but being able to plan out our next move. And that was a strong input that you gave to the commission, our need for that master planning. And I've enjoyed working with you on the commission. And for that, I have a plaque from the city that says, Fred Meyer, in appreciation for your dedicated years of service and your initiative to make Independence a better place to live during your term as mayor and city commissioner. Mayor, April 2014 to April 2015, January 2017 to January 2018.
Thank you. Nice plaque there.
I would just like to say that ever since you guys appointed me, which I've never forgiven you for, and I never will, I'd like to say I've enjoyed every minute of it, but that would be so far from the truth. We have really faced a lot, but I've always very much appreciated your stalwart determination to do what's best for the city. Even when you were the odd man out occasionally, I really appreciated that very much, and I just wanted to present you with this. This is a photo of you, as you can see. And and it says, quoting Fred Meyer, Mayor, every challenge is an opportunity.
Again, I would just like to thank the opportunity or the community for the opportunity to serve for the last 4 years. In some ways, it's gone by fast. In some ways, it hasn't gone by very fast. But it's been an honor, and I appreciate the confidence people have shown in me and my leadership abilities. And we'll be around. As I said in First Friday the other day, we'll be around, and you never know what opportunities present themselves going forward. So thank you very much. Thank you, Leonard, and thank you, Gary, and I appreciate working with you guys. And there's lots of challenges and opportunities ahead. So go for it. And with that,
You're going to miss it. I'm just telling you, you're going to miss it.
not tonight. The national championship game's on tonight. So thank you very much. And can I have my wife and my daughter come up here and leave?
And there is a reception.
A reception following the meeting.
Yes.
So stick it out till the bitter end.
Well, you guys can stay in the kitchen, please. Yeah, I'll let you hold that. He didn't get my ears right this time.
Okay, you ready?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And when you get my stuff, Fred, I'm going to have a few things for you.
Don't get away, leave sign stuff.
Yes, you're never done.
He wants to go watch the game. Let's talk around for a while. Maybe we should do the reception now.
So now I think it's time for Lewis to come on up. Okay, step on out. We'll swear you two in. Start with Leonard. Just repeat after me when you're ready. There you go.
Get a little closer.
All right. No hand, raise your right hand, please.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner.
and faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Are you ready, Lewis? All right. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner.
and faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome aboard. You may take your seats. Do you have his new plaque here?
Get up here.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. Welcome. Great, thank you. Great to have you. Thank you. All right. Official.
I'm always concerned when you do the repeat that at our wedding, going through our vows, I made it one sentence into the repeat, and then my mind went blank. And it got worse that I started laughing. And it took a while to regain composure. So when you were doing the repeat after me, I was getting a little nervous as long as you went. I had that flashback of 27 years ago. So,
Our next order of business is the election of mayor.
And I believe Leonard's the vice mayor. So.
Yes, Leonard, you're the vice mayor, so you'll lead that.
okay. We need a nomination for mayor, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we appoint Leonard Kuflish as mayor.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, thank you. Next, we'll have the vice mayor position. So I'll entertain a motion for vice mayor.
Lewis, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
I'll take it on.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so I'll second the motion. All in favor of Louis Ususi as vice mayor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
The next, we need to designate an official city newspaper. In the past, the Independence Daily Reporter has served as our official city newspaper. So do I have a motion for a city newspaper?
I'm
Motion.
Okay. Have a motion. I have a second. Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We need to designate the official city depository. That's a tricky word. You have to really concentrate. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion. Make a motion.
Which bank?
Community National Bank.
Okay, we have a motion that we designate Community National Bank as the official city depository. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We need to set the schedule for the commission meetings. We've got, we had some discussion last meeting of keeping it to the second and fourth Thursday. Our agenda has been sent with that schedule. There were some modifications allowing for Doodah Parade, a conflict with the KMA conference, and Thanksgiving. Is there any other dates that we know of that we need to modify?
No, that's it. And these are the same dates that you approved on December 14th, so they haven't been modified.
So, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the dates that were approved on December 14th.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the consent agenda. So, do we have any questions of any item we need to change?
I don't.
I don't either.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adoption of the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Motion carried. Presentations. Chief Harris, I'll turn it over to you.
Evening. My first presentation is for Officer Charlie Benedict. If you could step forward, Charlie. Face the camera real quick so everybody at home can see you. Okay. On September 7th of 2017 at approximately 0823 hours, that's 8:23 in the morning, officers were dispatched to a call of a suicidal man armed with a shotgun. I heard about this, and I couldn't believe it, so I went and watched the video, and it really happened just like this. The officers knew this man. He had been disarmed recently before that with a knife, a few days before that. And so when the officers arrived, Charlie chose a different tactic. He could have chosen another tactic and taken cover and confronted this man from a position of safety. But if you observe the video, at risk to himself, he crept up behind the man and ripped the shotgun from the man's grasp and handed it to another officer before the man could even react. And it was, I believe it was a very heroic thing you did, Charlie, because later on that man revealed that his intention was to try to force a police officer to shoot him. And so I have no doubt that there's a very strong chance that Charlie saved that man's life that day. So, in spirit of that, I'd like to present you with life-saving award.
Want one with the commission too?
Thank you for your service. We appreciate your dedication.
Thank you, Charlie. Mr. Crowell, if you could come forward. Let me turn around and face the camera for me. I'd like to introduce to everybody, this is Mr. Patrick Crowell. Mr. Patrick Crowell did something also very remarkable. On December 2nd, one of our supervisors was attempting to arrest a woman as she attacked another lady. Mr. Crowell was out for dinner with his family, I believe. He observed the officer in a violent struggle, and he didn't question it. And he came forward and intervened in that struggle. And in the process of that, was also attacked by the lady. Before that woman was taken into custody and secured, she would attack she would assault two officers as well. And so I wanted to give Mr. Crowell a Citizens Award for intervening and protecting one of our officers. And I've also given you a letter, Mr. Crowell, on the back, and that I've signed that I'd like for you to have as well. And I just wanted to personally thank you very much. A department our size, you know all these guys. I know everybody that I work with, and I've met their families, I've met their kids, and their safety is a huge concern of mine every day. So thank you very much.
with the way things are in the world today, you know, it's we're really fortunate to have the quality of law enforcement that we have in Independence, and then the citizens too. It represents a true partnering with the community where we see citizens willing to put themselves at risk, and then Officer Benedict being willing to put himself at risk. The situation could have turned the other way, but, you know, concern for his officers, but also understanding the individual that was involved that spared his life. And, you know, from the commission, really appreciate you both dedicating to Independence and giving it yourself to our community. I think that's what makes Independence great, the willingness of our citizens to go the extra mile to help somebody else. So thank you both. Next item on the agenda, we'll consider proclaiming January 14th, 2018 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Day. Would members of the Diversity Task Force like to address the commission now?
Good evening. I am Kathy Shepard, and I am the chair of the Diversity Task Force here in Independence. Each year, we work on putting together a program in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year will be the 50th anniversary, and so we are very excited about the program we have put together. It will be Sunday, January the 14th. And if all the members of Diversity Task Force would stand, we have a few of them here tonight. I want to just thank them for all their planning and hard work that's gone into the program, and we hope that you all will proclaim January the 14th as Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Day.
Thank you. I'd like to read the proclamation first. Proclamation 2018 honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Whereas the 15th day of January is the birthday anniversary of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and whereas Dr. King stood before the entire world as a man of peace, champion of human dignity, and an example of love and brotherhood, and whereas the citizens of Independence do recognize Dr. King's contribution to the good of all humankind, and they do desire to perpetuate and implement the ideals expressed in his dream of peace and harmony among all God's children. Now, therefore, I, Leonard Kaflish, Mayor of the City of Independence, do hereby proclaim the day of January 14th, 2018, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Day, and urge that every citizen of Independence join me in extending recognition and honor to the memory of this great leader of humankind by attending the local celebration, MLK 50 Forward. Together we win with love for humanity on Sunday, January 14th, 2018 at 3 p.m. at the Independence High School Performing Arts Center. I witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Independence, Kansas, to be affixed this day, January 8th, 2018. So do I have a motion?
I move to proclaim January 14th, 2018 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Day and authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We appreciate the Diversity Task Force bringing this before the commission and organizing this for the citizens. I think it's really marvelous to see how one man's dream and vision has touched so many lives. And, you know, the ideals need to be reestablished, and we continue forward with that we can see harmony among all of us. You know, the dream does continue even after all these years. So thank you. The next item on the agenda is consider co-sponsoring an anti-racism training sponsored by the Independence Diversity Task Force, scheduled for April 14th, 2018 at Memorial Hall. Again, do you want to give us any more information, Kathy? Please come to the microphone.
The Diversity Task Force is asking for the co-sponsorship of this in the way of being able to use Memorial Hall, the Civic Center area, for this training, and to providing spots for city employees in that training also. If you want any specifics on the training, Barb Emmert and Eni Fitzpatrick have both attended this training in the Chicago area, and that's where these individuals will be coming from to do the training for us.
Well, could you give some more details on the training? Is it going to be open to the public? Is it just for city staff, or some specifics?
It will be open to the public also. That's one thing that we wanted to have a wide variety of people attending that. We do want to afford some spots to the city employees. We had talked about the different department or division leaders, making sure that every one of them had a spot at our training, and then bringing in people from the community that want to go through this training also.
Okay. Is there a cost to attend?
We have raised the funds to be able to bring the trainers in and pay for all of that. The thing that we would, if we charge anything, and we haven't made that decision yet, but the one thing that we might do is we'd like to provide lunch for them so people don't have to go out and then come back. So there might be a minimal charge just for the meal.
What time are you planning to start the conference?
We are looking at registration from 8 to 8:30, and with the conference starting then at 8:30, and it would go straight through till 4:30 then.
Okay. And will there be information later on how to register? Or?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Will that be through the...
We can bring that to the city. We will be putting it out to the general public also through news briefs and different ways through the chamber with their communications to get that word out to everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion then to co-sponsor?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item C, consider authorizing the sale of firearms, ammunition, and equipment to other Kansas law enforcement agencies. Chief?
So we have a number of items that don't serve the community's needs, and I'd like to convert those into money that does serve the community's needs to go toward funding needed items for the police department.
Were they, notice in the additional information, the firearms, or those handguns, are they used, or are they all new that we just didn't need?
Well, everything was purchased new, but we can't sell them as new because everything's been fired. We can't confirm that everything hasn't been fired. And we know for a fact that nearly everything on there has been fired, and we're assuming that at some point somebody's fired the other stuff that's on the list as well.
The amount of firearms seem quite large, as well as the ammunition. Is that...
How did we happen to come into the ownership of all these that we don't need?
Well, several years ago, there was a police chief that made some purchases that resulted in some criminal charges, and this is in relation to that.
So we've had these for some time.
Yes, that was one of the assignments I was tasked with when I was first appointed chief was to find a way, or to see if we can find a way. And so as time passes, we get to things on the list, and now I've gotten to that item on the list, and I've been working several months to try to find the right contacts to do this legally. It's a very sensitive topic, and it's not just about the law, it's also about doing the right thing for the city of Independence. My biggest concern is that we don't want to let any of this equipment out into the public where something terrible could happen. And so, at some point down the road, it may change hands and fall into the wrong person's hands. And then the investigation reveals that Independence Police Department is responsible for allowing this item to get into the marketplace. So that's been a big concern of mine. But in discussing the issue with the ATF agent, Agent Neil Tierney, he's informed me that these weapons and the ammunition are not eligible for the free market, for the open market to the public, because we cannot prove, at this point, we cannot prove that some of them were not purchased tax exempt. So in other words, it appears that everything is purchased tax exempt. We know for a fact what is tax exempt. We don't know what else was purchased not tax exempt. And according to Neil, there's no federal law that allows the government to recoup that excise tax. And so that doesn't allow us to permit it out. So whatever we do has to be approved by the commission and by the ATF before I can. So even if you approve this tonight, I will still consult with Neil Tierney prior to making any decisions. And if you would like to discuss this with Neil, he's more than willing to come down and meet with you guys in a commission meeting and give you the straight from the expert's mouth. But my understanding is that because of that excise tax issue, the weapons and ammunition cannot legally be sold on the open market.
That's why you said you would sell them to other law enforcement agencies, and only in Kansas, I noticed.
Well, hopefully there's some agencies in Kansas that need these items, and we can never get what they were purchased for.
Sure.
Clearly. So I've gotten trade-in values on most of the items. The ammunition, I don't really have a way to get an offer on because I don't think a dealer will buy the ammo off of us. And so I'm not sure how to come up with that. I guess it'll be worth whatever the purchasing agency and we come to the conclusion of.
My question is, and I know this didn't occur under your watch, but what would have been the value of those weapons at the time they were purchased? Any idea what kind of money we would have been looking at as far as
I couldn't even
spent
guess
on
on
the
that,
items?
Commissioner Susie.
Okay.
I don't even want to hazard a guess. It'd
Okay.
be a lot.
We did get restitution in that case. Was it 50,000 or something like that? There was some restitution paid. I don't remember exactly what it was.
The government distributed some Vietnam-era M16s to STAR or tactical teams and on loan. Do we have any of those that need to be returned to the government?
No, I consulted with our firearms instructor today, and he also manages our arsenal, so to speak, and our weapons inventory. And I was told that at one time we did have some weapons that came to Independence Police Department through the federal 1033 program that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. However, those weapons were the ownership of those weapons was transferred to Baxter Springs Police Department, I believe he said, a number of years ago.
Okay.
Well prior to my tenure.
Yeah. So it's, when you look at the list of weapons and particularly the number of rounds of ammunition, it's surprising we get that way. Are you looking into the future of how to progress your change out of firearms and a logical progression of ammunition purchase so we don't have this happen again? It's, I guess, concern first we're going to sell at a loss.
Sure.
And then that it happened that the purchases could be made in that volume without a checks and balance.
Yes.
Have we set up a system that we stay on a little more track of what is needed for your programs? And
We, consulting with our firearms instructor and noting how much ammo that is consumed every year, because we go through a lot of ammo. I mean, there's, 20-some officers, and we all have to qualify at least once a year. I am looking to increase the amount of time we spend training, so that number will go up. So we budgeted for that out of this allotment, out of this amount of ammunition for both rifles and handguns. And the one shining thing that occurred from this activity is that we are well supplied with ammunition, and so I believe that the firearms instructor has set aside, I think it was a 5 or 8 year supply for us. So it'll be a long time before we really have to spend money on ammunition.
in addition to the 75,000 rounds?
Out of that amount, I'm not sure how much of that's coming out of that amount.
Oh, okay.
But we have a lot of ammo that we've reserved back for ourselves for training. The other good thing that's come from this is that almost all of our sidearms came from this activity that we have now through the forfeiture and restitution process. So that's a good thing. So none of our weapons are more than 10, 11 years old. And most of them they were purchased in cycles throughout that time frame as that chief was making purchases. And so we are well heeled when it comes to weapons and ammunition. We're doing good.
Would you explain the restitution, I forgot the first term.
Forfeiture?
Forfeiture and restitution. Would you explain that to people that will be watching this later, what you mean by that?
Well, there's laws in Kansas that allow law enforcement to do forfeiture for certain criminal activities. And so that's a civil process. That's not criminal. So if you can prove beyond the preponderance of evidence, not reasonable doubt, that's a criminal standard, but the preponderance of evidence is the civil standard. If you can prove beyond that these items were a product of ill-gotten gains, then you have the state law allows us to seize that property and sell it or dispose of it to the benefit of our communities. And it goes into a law enforcement trust fund, and the restrictions on that are that cannot be budgeted money. So I can't spend that on pay raises, I can't spend it on uniforms, I can't spend it on cars. It has to be a special purchase. In our case, the K-9, I've checked with the State Attorney General's office, and the K-9 falls in under the like a special purchase. So the continued budgeting of that, however, we would have to look at some different things on that. But at this time, that's what we're looking at, is to equip and outfit our agency with a K-9, hopefully.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, then we have a motion, and then also we need to adopt a resolution. Or Jeff, if we adopt the resolution, does that take care of the motion to sell?
Basically, one or the other, right?
Right. The resolution was more general, and there was a specific one drafted at one time for a specific gun. But there's a resolution that would cover surplus equipment, firearms, ammunition, and the like.
Yeah. So we do need, for the resolution to take effect, we do need to adopt it. And if it would be sufficient for both, then I would just entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Resolution numbers 2018-001.
Yes. So, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2018-001. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next on the agenda, reports. Third quarter treasurer's statement. Any questions, or do you want to present it to us?
Yeah, I just would entertain any questions you might would have on it. Obviously, you still see that there's some negative balances that are on there. In part of just cleaning this up and getting us back to a current state, I haven't gotten all the transfers made, so those will occur as you see the fourth quarter one. Moving some of the money around to get the money where it's supposed to be. I don't have anything specific, but any questions you might would have.
That's what I had a question dealing, we're looking at the third quarter, but we ended the year like bond and interest fund. It's shown in a deficit for the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So, we didn't revise the budget in December, so I assume that from the third quarter to the end of the year, that balanced out.
Yeah, there's sufficient funds there to transfer over.
Okay. The Southeast Lift Station still with showing a deficit in that, but then the loan that we got on KDHE is still just 2.1 million. Have we drawn down?
We have not. I worked with Sean. I had to get him some additional information. He was going to do some more research on his end, and we haven't got back together since I provided him that information.
Okay.
He's going to be in this week. We have some other things that we're going to do, but hopefully we have time that we can set aside to continue to work on that.
Okay, so that'll clear up the loan at the bottom of the page plus some other deficits.
Yeah.
In the upper part. Okay. We haven't got our grant from KDOT yet on the $17,000 for the airport terminal design.
Have not received that yet.
Okay, that's, as a report, we don't need to adopt it if there's no other questions. Then next was city board minutes. Any questions from the commission on those? Okay. Item 10 is commission comments. Gary?
No comments.
Okay. Lewis?
I would just like to say I'm honored to be sitting here. I'm a newbie, and it's definitely going to show. So bear with me. It's a learning process for me, and it will be for you. And it may be painful at times, but the only thing I can do is do the very best I can and keep in mind what's good for the entire community and to spend resources responsibly. So I appreciate being here. Thank you for your support.
Starting out a new year, and in the past we've talked about some work sessions, and I'd like to schedule a work session with us three commissioners and the city manager to kind of line out, some ideas for the coming year. Just give us a time to allow us to visit as commissioners with the city manager present and let him open dialogue for us. I think the key for us coming in the future is to develop a team closer with the city manager. The commissioners and city manager form a team with direction to set the city on a long-term plan. When we interviewed candidates for city manager, you look at the life cycle change order over of the city manager, and each has a different idea, different direction, that it's hard to really progress forward. And I think by us sitting down with Craig's got some excellent ideas and experience that he can help set that direction for the city, that as we had the planning session with the strategic planning session prior, talking about master plan, I think it'd be really beneficial for us to start the year. So, if we could, I'd like to have it this month. I'm not for sure on Craig's schedule, but, if we could have it between now and our next commission meeting. What's your schedule?
I can't do that.
Okay,
No, sorry. It'd have to be after the next commission meeting.
okay. Maybe give us some dates that would work with your schedule. And I know Craig's not up to full strength yet either, so let him look, because don't want to push anything too active before you're ready to be released. But, if we could do that, get some dates, and
Absolutely.
I think it'd really be beneficial for us.
I think it's a great idea.
If we could, I guess until Craig's back, communicate days that would be available with Kelly, and then she can coordinate with us on a day. So, and that would be, what's the date of the next commission meeting?
The 25th.
So after the 25th, okay, and into the first week of February or two.
That'd be great.
Okay? That was, I had some other things, but would come up better in that meeting. So with that, we'll go to public concerns. Debbie Miller has requested to address the commission concerning new policy.
I am the infamous Debbie Miller. For decades, Independence taxpayers have sent millions and millions of their hard-earned dollars to the City of Independence to pay the salary and benefits of city employees, including 2 city managers whom taxpayers had trusted to manage the city in the most responsible and economical manner possible. That trust has been betrayed by years of negligent management by former city managers Paul Sass and Mickey Webb. As a result, taxpayers have had or will have to pay million more tax dollars for mandated ADA improvements that should have been made decades ago, the city's inept, helter-skelter approach to city facilities improvements, maintenance updates to City Hall, water facilities, and infrastructures, all of which should have been continuously maintained. However, the real blame for such epic failures in city management lies not with the city manager, but with the many city commissioners whose failure to set clear expectations of them have resulted in the absolute waste of millions of scarce tax dollars. If this neglectful trend is to end, this commission must set aside the failed policies of the past and implement new policies that work for the benefit of Independence and its residents. It should start by setting clear expectations of City Manager Whitehead, which should include that he will identify still unaddressed challenges facing the city, such as street improvements and trash collection, and develop preliminary plans and timelines for addressing them. Provide comprehensive plans for any projects for which hundreds of thousands of tax dollars will be spent, which will include the project's goals and feasibility. Continuously find ways to cut spending and conserve tax dollars. If an unpaid city commissioner can find hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings from opportunities such as KDOT grants, there's absolutely no reason why a paid city manager and his paid staff can't do the same. Ensure all city employees complete all the jobs for which they are being paid and be held personally accountable when their failure to do so results in the unnecessary waste of thousands of taxpayer dollars. Ensure the city complies with all local, state, and federal laws and be held personally accountable when its failure to do so financially or otherwise damages individuals. Many Independence residents are hanging their last hopes on this commission and its ability to turn the city around and make it the city they want, they expect, and they pay for. Setting clear expectations of Mr. Whitehead would seem to be an important first step in achieving that goal. We sincerely thank each of you for your willingness to tackle the many difficult challenges facing Independence and for your willingness to serve the good, hard-working people of Independence, Kansas. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Next item, adjournment.
There is a reception afterwards, and it is also for you gentlemen as well as Fred, so
Okay.
that's set up out in the gallery, and everybody's welcome.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion?
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.